Hello and welcome to this course with Group 3. This series is all about how to use the new Roar Distortion unit that was added into Ableton Live 12. This distortion unit gives you a lot of advanced and very flexible types of distortion that you can use all over your records, no matter what style of music you make. It could be used as a complex multi-band saturation or distortion device. You could use it in parallel to kind of thicken up drums, or you can use it creatively as an 808 shaper to customize 808 samples. So throughout this course, we'll be showing you all sorts of different ways you can use this device and sort of showing you the different features as well in a kind of a more practical guide to how to use this distortion. Each of these videos will be organized around a specific style of distortion patch, and I'll make sure to include all of the different loops and samples that I use as well, so that way you can go ahead and follow along with the videos, or you could add in your own samples if you'd like. All those course materials will be available on the Group 3 website, so you can go ahead and download those and then follow along with the videos if you'd like to do so. So for this first video, the patch that we'll be showing you how to make is going to be a way of shaping drums through distortion. So before the Roar Distortion unit on this loop, we kind of have a simple acoustic drum loop. Sounds nice, but it lacks a lot of thickness and a bunch of fullness. Listen to what it sounds like once we add in this parallel distortion. Also pay attention to the peak level. It doesn't actually increase very much, but we're getting a much louder and more full sound. So that's the patch that I'll be showing you how to make in this video. So let's copy over that loop by holding Option or Alt and dragging that loop over. I will change the color so everything matches. We will close that out real quick, just so we have a new kind of blank slate to work with here. And then I'm going to go ahead and just grab my distortion and drag and drop it in. So the first thing that we need to do is go ahead and set our drive settings, and then also choose the type of distortion mode that we'd like to use. This device has a lot of different styles of distortion, whether it be just using it like a regular distortion unit where everything just has a single channel and you could saturate and distort as you want. You could use it in serial, so you can go into multiple copies of the distortion unit back to back, parallel, multi-band, mid-side, which actually can be used very creatively, which I'll show you in one of the videos, or even these weird feedback modes as well. For this one, we're going to go ahead and route this in parallel, because I want to go ahead and thicken up the drums, but also be able to control exactly how I go about distorting everything. So the first thing that we can do once we set that up to parallel is just set our general drive for the input. What this will do is set the amount of gain that we're sending into the distortion and kind of set the general tone of everything. So let's go ahead and just drive that up. So I'd like 8.4. That's kind of a nice starting point to work with. So that way we have quite a bit of level headed into these different stages of distortion. And that helps thicken everything up. Then the other control that we have over here is going to be this tone shaper. It's almost like a tilt shelf EQ. So if I turn this all the way down, or focus on those low end frequencies, and we're sort of taking out a lot of those highs, or if we put this up, we chop out a lot of those low frequencies and then add a lot of highs. Let's go ahead and just brighten up our loop just a little bit. So let's use like 4%. This kind of helps brighten everything up, adds a little bit more top end, while also attenuating some of those low end frequencies that are a little bit boomy sounding. Then we have to decide how much we'd like to blend stage 1 and stage 2 of our distortion together. We go ahead and turn the stage 2 off for now, so we just hear this first one. And for this, I want to go ahead and have just a little bit of this first channel and then more of the secondary one. The reason is we're going to be distorting this first one a lot more, and then the second one we're going to be distorting a little bit less, almost just using it as kind of a soft saturation sound, and that'll kind of be the main section of our drums. And we'll be blending in just a little bit of the more textured distortion. So let's go ahead and set this blend amount to 80-20. So I'll set 80 there, so that way we have 20 over here and 80 on stage 2. So what that'll do essentially is just turn down the volume of the second stage here. And then we can go ahead and start configuring this distortion. And by the way, these buttons just turn off or on the various different stages of distortion. And these are running in parallel. So we have it hitting this one, and then everything is compressed together and sent to the output. So I'll start with that first one. Let's go ahead and crank the amount up just a little bit, just so we have some level to work with. And then we're going to change this over to the noise injection mode. This gives you a really interesting noise texture with the distortion that's really nice, especially when it's used a little bit more subtly. It can almost add this like textured white noise sound and almost this percussive element to your patches. So it can be a little bit aggressive by itself. So we'll go ahead and kind of attenuate that here in a moment with some frequency, with the frequency control. But for now, let's go ahead and put that up to 36. By the way, I'm just using my up and down arrows to adjust that. Now let's go ahead and filter out some of those high-end frequencies, because I want this to be more of a low-end crunch. So what this does is gives me a nice texture on the low end, kind of focusing more on those upper mid frequencies, and just adding a little bit more energy and transience to those mids. Then we can hop over to our secondary stage of distortion. Now what this is doing is just running in parallel to that main channel, and this will enable us to really thicken up our sound. Kind of just brings in essentially the dry signal. And we'll add just a little bit of saturation here. By default, this should be set on the soft sine curve, which is a softer style of saturation. So this is nice just to add a little bit of extra texture to your drums. So I'll turn this up so you can really hear what this is doing. But you can hear we still have a lot of that nice low end. It's not just saturating everything to the point where we lose a lot of lows. So we can kind of use that to thicken everything up and then blend in that first stage to get that texture. So listen to how those upper mids jump out a lot more once we add in that first stage of distortion. You get a lot more of that texture and a lot more kind of push in the upper mids. Just helps add a little bit of extra energy to that drum part. Then let's go ahead and play around with some modulation to kind of tighten this up and almost act sort of as like a transient shaper. So this is one of the things that makes this specific distortion device super interesting. There's actually a lot of very complex modulation options. So we press on this menu, we can go ahead and either open these up over here, or you can open them up in this larger menu as well. I usually like to use this one, it's a little bit more streamlined, but if you'd like to view everything simultaneously, you can do so by using this menu. And this is also resizable, by the way, inside of Ableton, which is nice. But for us, let's go ahead and just use this, just to keep everything a little bit more kind of streamlined here. And then we're going to swap over to this envelope mode. So basically what this is a envelope follower. And we can map various different components of this device to this envelope follower to get some really interesting textures and movements into our sound. You also have some LFOs as well, and this noise generator. But for this patch, we'll just be using the envelope. So we're going to use this on the secondary stage of distortion. And we're going to use this to kind of almost act like a transient shaper. So we're going to make it increase the amount of drive as the sound snaps. Then as the sound sort of recovers and the transient dies off, going to reduce the amount of distortion. So let's go ahead and click on this right here. And actually, you can see what this envelope is doing real quick. So you can see it's giving us this curve to work with for our audio. And then essentially what we could do is make modulation values follow this curve. So let's route this up and then we'll come back and adjust some of these settings here in a moment. Let's go ahead and first go to the drive control, which will be for the entire device. And we'll go to that envelope control and reduce this. So it almost sounds like a compression now, because now the input drive is dynamically reacting to our modulation. So this gives us a super interesting texture, and obviously we don't want quite that much. We just want a little bit of that almost compression effect. Then we'll go over to our mount control. I go ahead and increase this. So it has just a little bit of energy whenever I boost this up. So let's just do a little bit of that. Let's do 4.7 here, and then we'll see what that sounds like on stage 1. Let's see if we can really push this out a lot more to get some more texture. So let's try that out. Let's go ahead and click here. That pops that up down here inside the modulation matrix. And let's crank that all the way up and see what it does. So that actually really opens up that drum part. So especially that snap, and you can even see that this is now dynamically responding to the input. What that's doing is really just kind of opening up that drums and gives you a little bit more air on the top end. Next thing we can do is go ahead and play around with this release control to adjust the effect that we have here. So we can make our effect much snappier by reducing this release. That gives me a little bit more crunch on the whole drum part. Let's also play around with the width of our curve. So whenever they're super short, it gives us more of this initial attack transient and click to everything, but it doesn't kind of blow out the whole sound. So if we crank this all the way up, we almost start to lose some clarity on the drums, but whenever this is put down, now it acts more like a transient shaper, adding some crunch to the front end of those sounds. Then from there, we can go to the output. Let's reduce the amount of compression on my drums because we're shaping them quite a bit with these envelopes here. We don't want too much of this. So about 17% sounds nice. And then from there, let's maybe reduce some of this just a little bit. We'll keep that one at 100. We'll keep this one at 3.1. And then altogether, before our drum sounded like this. And also pay attention to where that peak level is. It's coming pretty close to 0. But listen to what this sounds like whenever we add the distortion in. The peak level doesn't change that much, but the sound actually gets much louder. So that shows you how you can use this plugin as a creative drum shaper to really add an interesting textured saturation quality to your sounds. It also shows off how to dynamically adjust the distortion as the sound's playing back using that envelope follower, which gives you the ability to create an almost weird transient shaping effect, which can be really cool. So that's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.